afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It is delightful to see so many of the community here today for our very special beginning of our meeting. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce first the Honorable Stephanie Hulsey, who is a Superior Court Judge here in Monterey, and Yuri Anderson. Would you come forward? I just called this to order. All right. And if you wanted to face the audience, please.
Yes. I'm just going to say a few words. First of all, it is a real honor and a privilege to be here to administer the oath of office to Yuri Anderson. Our paths have crossed many, many times over probably the past decade. So I have seen firsthand Yuri's real commitment to community service and public service, primarily through her attendance at the Children's Council meetings, the Community Alliance for Safety and Peace, and other organizations that have the mission to make our community a better place, particularly with regard to education and the youth in our community. For those of you who may not know Yuri, although I'm sure most of you do know her because she has been so involved in our community, she is representing the residents of Monterey Peninsula College's second trustee district, which includes the city of Molina, former Fort Worth communities, and portions of the Seaside Highlands. Yuri's family, and I did not realize this earlier, but Yuri's family has been in Monterey County for nearly 60 years. She is a proud graduate of one of our public high schools, North Monterey County High School, and she then went on to earn her Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from the University of Southern California, went to the opposite coast, to New York City, where I actually also went, but attended a different school. Yuri earned her master's degree in educational administration from New York University. Her career has also encompassed programmatic and organizational leadership roles in human service organizations in New York City, San Francisco, and of course here in Monterey County. She currently serves as the policy advisor to Supervisor Mary Adams, who is our 5th district supervisor, and I do see that we have some other representatives here for various supervisors from our ward supervisor. She then focused on issues related to health and human services, economic and workforce development, education, and regional transportation and traffic. As of January 2nd, she is going to assume the role of Chief of Staff for Supervisor Adams. She previously held the position of Vice President, Community Investments for the United Way of Monterey County, and is a founding member of the Bright Futures for Monterey County Educational Partnership. She somehow manages to balance all of this with her family. Her husband Bob is here, and she is a loving mother and a devoted mother to her 2 equally loving children, Everett and Lillian, who are also present today. I think that all of us can agree that we are very fortunate to have somebody of Yuri's caliber, her educational experience, the breadth of her professional experience, and her commitment to our community and to public service take on this new role as being a trustee for Monterey Peninsula College. So without any further ado, Yuri, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Yuri Anderson.
I, Yuri Anderson.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will defend the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Foreign and domestic.
Foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, Trustee.
Welcome, Yuri. Welcome, and let me give you your MPC pin and welcome you to the MPC family. We're delighted. We're delighted you're here. Please join me up there. And thank you again, Honorable Stephanie Hulsey. That was a lovely introduction. And we have another new trustee that we are delighted to welcome, and swearing her in will be someone who is a longtime member of the MPC family, a distinguished instructor here at the college, and Dr. Haffa is also a member of the City Council of the City of Monterey. And so we welcome Dr. Haffa, who will swear in our other new trustee, Molina.
So it is a great honor to be asked to introduce our new trustee, Natalia Molina. I know that Natalia is going to connect MPC with many of our residents and students who live in District 1. And just so excited to see you here today and to be able to have this honor. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I,
State your name.
Natalia Molina,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
about which I'm about to enter.
I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
And Natalia, as you take your seat at the podium, we would like to welcome you very much to the MPC family.
Thank you so much.
Wear this pin proudly.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right, and how about another round of applause? hope everyone takes note. This is the first time in many years that the women outnumber the men. This is our annual, did I skip roll call? Yes, may we have the roll call,
Certainly
please,
we
Jody?
Okay. Chair Dunn Gustafson.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Molina.
Here?
Trustee Steck.
Here.
Student trustee Kittel.
Here.
Acting president Walker.
Here.
All right, thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. And Natalia, would you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, item C is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written on the screen. What is it? On the screen. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, this is our annual organizational meeting. So we have yet to get acquainted. I look forward to doing that at another time. But this is the time where we elect the chair, the vice chair, and the representatives to each of the committees that we have, the standing committees of the board. And the first one is election of the chair.
I would move, Marilyn, that that be you. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are you ready? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, election of vice chair.
You're looking at me. I'm going to move that it be Lauren specifically because of all the work we're doing right now in selecting a new president, superintendent president of school for this year. But ladies, I look forward very much to making the same motion for you next year. So I'm going to make that motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I would like to make another nomination.
We need a second first. I'd like to second that motion. All right. And we need to now vote procedurally. We need to vote on the motion before we do that. But can it usually after we have the motion made, we allow opportunity for questions and for discussion. Natalia, did you have a comment that you wanted to say with regard to this motion?
No, I don't have
Okay.
a comment with respect to this
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
I have another nomination.
Okay.
We'll wait for that.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of Dr. Lauren Stack serving as the vice?
Yeah, I have a question. Isn't it allowable that she can make a substitute motion and then,
Excuse me, what we do is we ask people to go to the podium, and once there is a motion and a second on the floor, we need to vote on that motion, and if there is another motion that comes up, we will deal with that subsequently. But right now, we have a motion and we have a second.
I would call for
Excuse
more
me,
directly. There is actually an option for a substitute motion in the process of the initial motion.
Okay.
So if a motion is made and a second is taken, another person is able to offer a substitute motion, in which case you would call for a second. If there's a second on that motion, you vote on that substitute motion.
Okay.
If it fails, then you return to the initial motion.
I am delighted. I am delighted that we have
I work with the Board of Supervisors, so we
Okay.
spend some time on the front end.
Wonderful. I am delighted to have that knowledge available. So I stand corrected, and...
So I was just going to second Yuri's position because usually for nominations of chair, vice chair, officers of boards, you nominate everybody at one time and then decide who's going to be the chair or vice chair, etc. So to just have one nomination and vote on it is inconsistent with parliamentary procedures.
Thank you. Natalia.
So thank you very much. So I would like to nominate Yuri Anderson for vice chair for all of the wonderful reasons that the judge stated. And as I was reading through the manual, it talked about one of the things that we all have to adhere to is having courageous conversation. I wasn't here for the last meeting, but I understand that Yuri led a lot of courageous conversation, and that's what I would like to see in the leadership here. She has the undergraduate degree in political science, the master's in educational administration, and all of the breadth and depth that the judge had addressed. Plus, and this wasn't planned or rehearsed, it was very impressive for her to say, you know, we didn't do this procedurally correct. That's the type of leadership that I would like to see, and I think she's well prepared for it.
All right, is there a second? Okay. Procedurally, then...
I second my own nomination. I'll second that nomination.
All right.
I would be happy to serve as vice chair. I think that it's an opportunity to work together and learn about the board and to be a strong leader for the folks that elected me to serve on this board. We haven't had an opportunity for leadership from the trustee area too, and I would be happy to serve in that capacity. So thank you for the nomination, Natalia.
I'm going to procedurally ask, what is the process now that we have 2 motions and 2 sections? How do we deal with this? Do we vote on the secondary motion first and then go to the primary motion? How do we
Yeah,
proceed?
so you first would vote on the substitute motion, which would be the second motion
Okay.
that Natalia made, and if that motion fails, then you can return to the first
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
Can I ask? Might as well all try to figure out what we're doing. Discussion at this point? We
Please,
made motions.
please.
We haven't really discussed it. I just said I look forward to being the one to make the motion, probably for you as president next time. But I am going to stand by what I said as far as this year, as we're looking at the whole process of a new superintendent president. And Lauren, I need you to, if I'm off base there, you need to say that. I don't know if being vice president adds too much to when you're also leading the committee on this or not. So can we hear from you, sir?
Sure. I don't think that it's too much. I think that the vice chair actually doesn't do much for in our new work.
Only when I was vice chair.
Or in the chair, or when Charlie was chair. So I don't personally have a problem with that. I understand the point.
Is this a position you would like?
Sure.
And I would say in support of the secondary motion that I personally, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm excited by the expertise and the fresh opinions that you bring to the board and the courageous conversations that I know we will continue to have. One of the things as chair, I make a point of putting my opinions last on the table because to me, my role is to just guide the discussion and that is all, not influencing it except when it comes to the voting. We have historically had lots of discussion and always welcomed discussion and new ideas. on the board. It will be delightful, new energy, new ideas. And so when I vote for this motion, I want it in no way to reflect that I'm not excited that you're here. This is delightful. Okay. All those in favor of Yuri Anderson serving as vice chair, please signify by raising your hand. All right, we have 3. All right, all those in favor of Dr. Lawrence Stack serving as vice chair, please raise your hand. All right. And procedurally, I'm just going to ask about our student trustee vote. Can you speak to that?
I can speak to it. My vote is an advisory vote on behalf of the student body here.
Okay, all right. And to you, it's not as if we
It's not weighted.
don't value our students and the advisory that you, and the input that you bring. All right, so the secondary motion failed, and now we will vote on the primary motion. All those in favor of Dr. Lawrence Stack serving as vice chair, please raise your hand. Oh, motion carries. Thank you, and thank you all. Now, we have some other really important things to do. Okay, this is the election of the secretary of the governing board, and that by board policy is our superintendent president. So is there someone who would like to make that motion?
I'm having fun finding out how we should do this. Do we, traditionally it is a superintendent president. Do we elect Walt to that, or do we elect Larry to that until Walt comes back?
I think it's the position. It's the position.
So then I would nominate.
Our superintendent president. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the superintendent president as the secretary per our board policies. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the MPC Foundation has 2 trustees historically who have served on that board, one as a primary and one as an alternate. And we, at the last meeting, elected Mr. Johnson to serve as the primary, and we would love to now have an alternate who would like to serve the MPC Foundation board. Is there, please?
How often do you plan to be absent, Rick?
As much as I can. That was a joke. I was at the training yesterday, and what I'd love to see, I don't plan on being off a lot, but I would love to see that whoever the alternate would also, as much as possible, also come. We can both be there and work it out, but Yuri, I will tell you that I'm very easy to deal with as far as scheduling things. I'm fortunate. Dr. Haffa is back there, and I can't tell him that I can take time off from my job working together with the city, but I can for this MPC. So whoever it is, I will work very well with them to make it work.
Is there one of you who would like to do that? Who has a particular desire to do that? It's our foundation. I'm very partial to our foundation. They do wonderful things.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best ways to really understand the financial position of trustees using that. And Marilyn, I can't believe you asked if there was anyone who wanted to. What you have to say is there anyone who absolutely won't. So
Much better.
With that, I'm going to just go ahead and nominate Yuri, and then we'll go from there. Yuri, you certainly have the right to turn it down.
Well, I would say I have a particular interest in the board policy subcommittee, and then I know at the last meeting and several meetings, there's been some discussion regarding the timing of our board meetings themselves. So as a full-time working person, the commitment to another meeting during the week at this point is a challenge. So knowing that I have an interest in that other committee, I would rather stay back at this time and put my name there. If this board has meetings at alternate times that were less in conflict with the work day, and then, in the future, I can potentially serve on a committee like the fellowship.
Okay, Natalia, the beam is on you.
So, my situation is similar, being a full-time working person for a nonprofit organization. There's a conflict with the timing of the meetings. It is of great interest to me, but I couldn't have attended.
At 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. That would be at 4 o'clock on the second Wednesday of the month.
Right, that, I couldn't make that one work.
So shall we leave the position open at the present time?
Well, I see 2 other trustees here, so,
Elise, is that something that, it would be delightful.
yeah. You are.
I would love to.
Oh, wonderful.
I've actually already been talking with Ms. Michaels about creating a student position on the board.
Oh, terrific. This would be a wonderful way to begin. All right. Mr. Johnson.
Would like to nominate Elise to that.
All right. Is there a second?
I second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second to nominate Elise as the alternate designated director to the MPC Foundation. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we are now on item E, to designate a 2019 education liaison for Monterey County, Monterey County School Board Association's Executive Committee.
And I do believe that was Charlie. wasn't it?
Charlie Brown has held that position for the last 7 years at least.
And I also believe those meetings are in the evenings.
I do not.
First
Good
Wednesday.
morning.
9 a.m.
About as far from the evening as you can be.
So that would, unless there is a lot of interest, if somebody really, really wants to do, that would be something that I had looked at, and I could make that work with my schedule.
Do you really, really want to?
Yes, I really, really want to.
Hello. Of course.
All right.
I would like to nominate Natalia for that.
All right. Is there a second? Okay, Yuri seconds. We have a motion. We have a second to designate Natalia Molina as representative to the Monterey County School Boards Association's Executive Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item F, designate a 2019 representative and alternate to Community Human Services. Lauren, could you speak to that organization? I know you're probably familiar with it through United Way, and I don't know if...
It's a great organization. It's not only a 501c3, it's also a JPA, and members of the JPA include a number of school districts as well as a number of cities in the county, not all of them, but many of them. And it's a worthwhile organization. Their mission is to essentially work with people who other people don't want to work with. They have we run a residential 12-step program in the Seaside called Genesis House. We run the larger of the two methadone clinics in Salinas called Off Main Clinic. We run a runaway program, homeless programs. We do supervised visitation for courts. There are 13 different programs that are run under the umbrella of Community Human Services. And the JPA, as I said, consists of various member cities and school districts in the county.
It should also be noted that as a board that is involved with that, we also budget money every year to be part of that group.
And Lauren, you have served as the representative of this board for how many years?
I've been for 15 years.
15 years, so I know it is something that's very special and important to you. Would you like to continue in that role?
Sure. Yes, I would.
All right.
Is there anyone, before we nominate, is there anyone else who's interested in that?
All right.
Then I would nominate, getting a little old, isn't it? I would nominate Lauren to that position.
Dr. Lauren Steck, is there a second?
I'll second that nomination.
Thank you, Yuri. We have a motion and a second to designate Dr. Lauren Steck as the representative to Community Human Services. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
There's also an alternate.
And there is an alternate. All right. Shall, would you?
Can I ask, is anybody interested in the alternate? Usually that's the time.
Yes. All right, is there anyone who would like to serve as the alternate?
I'd be happy to serve.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Do we need a motion for that, Dr. Steck? All right. Would you like to make that motion?
Motion for Yuri to be the alternate to the Community Services.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you both. You are familiar with the organization. It's terrific. Board policies. I am delighted to hear. I said work on those. Oh, we were busy last year. We did a lot.
I've been working up to this. Could I nominate Yuri, please?
All right, and we need 2 people to serve on that. Is there someone else who would enjoy getting into the policies and working on them?
I would enjoy it.
Terrific. All right. Would somebody-
Then I would like to nominate Natalia also for that.
Okay,
We could probably do this on one vote.
yes, we can.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Yuri Anderson and Natalia Molina as the designated board subcommittee for governing board policies for 2019. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item H has to do with our schedule. And I know.
Here you go.
Thank you. Terrific. Well, that I can do when it doesn't go to sleep.
Can I make a motion to keep Yuri sitting next to you?
Actually, didn't vote for me to be vice chair.
I know. I can change the order so that I can sit there and Lauren can sit here and Yuri can sit there. Because as Jolene will be delighted to know that there's another assistant up here. Thank you. My screen keeps going dark for those of you in the audience, and so I revert to the paper copy frequently. Okay. Mr. Johnson, we have had our meetings at 1:30 for the last 6 years, 7 years, or 6 years. And we did that at the convenience and at the request of the campus community, if I recall correctly.
Should we just go into discussion now?
Or do you want a motion
I don't know, I'm asking.
first? Or
Yuri,
you
we're
want a
obviously
discussion?
looking at you when we get.
Yeah,
We need a.
there is
Can we
no
go-
motion.
Okay, then
Yeah.
I did a.
Would you like to put a motion on the floor? Or would you
No,
like to
let's have a
discussion?
discussion. Can we be, I think there's alternatives here that instead of having to vote down something and then vote something. We did do that, and it was during my, if you want to blame somebody, it was during my chairmanship, when we moved it up because we heard from the campus community at that time that we had meetings that would go till 10 o'clock at night, and it was not something either teachers or students said that they really wanted, or administration. I've been thinking about this a lot. I will tell you right now, just personally for me, it simply doesn't matter. I kind of booked this day out. I think there may be, nobody's even said what they want, so I'm jumping ahead here, but I think there may be a little bit of a compromise we can make here. Right now, we meet at 11 o'clock until 12:30 in closed session, and then we come back at 1:30, and maybe we can shift that forward so at the very least people have a half day of work. As it is now, I normally, on weeks we have the meeting, my job, I go in and work on Saturday to make up for that. But we could push it forward. I had a very, very unscientific survey today because I came to closed session at 11 o'clock and there wasn't a closed session. So I went out and talked to some of the students about it from the student angle. I found it very interesting that 2 of them had absolutely no idea what a trustee was, and that was really humiliating. But others that I had talked to, when I said if you had a reason to come, would it be better in the evening? And I was surprised, I'd never even thought of it. They said, you know, most of us going here, if we have jobs, work in the evenings, if we go to school during the day. So that's something, this was very unscientific, and you can go out there and find people who will say exactly the opposite. So I'm wondering if we would consider doing closed session at 1:30 or 2. Then that usually goes about an hour and a half. So say we did it at 2 o'clock. Then we'd be done with that at 3:30. It's not at lunchtime. We can take a 15 or 20-minute break. At 3 o'clock, start, instead of at 1:30, now we're at 3 o'clock. That gains both faculty members and students that are still here during the day. And we do public comment. I'm all over the board on this. We do public comment before we go into closed session. We would then at 3 o'clock do public comment. And that would go from 3 to 5. Okay?
Public comment?
No. 3. Well, if there was no public comment, yes, rather than limited. But 3 to 5, then take a break, reconvene for the final part, which would go from 5 to 7, but do public comment again there, and then actually consider at the end of our meetings to do public comment again. That seems to be, yes, yeah, that seems to be a bridge between daytime and early evening. That's a consideration, whatever goes.
So when you say public, I'm sorry.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
When you say public comment, do you mean on items not on the agenda?
Well, normally that's what it is.
Referring to, okay.
Yeah.
If people will still have the opportunity to comment on it.
But I don't know if we can still do a wrap-up later with things that were on the agenda. I'd rather not limit when people can talk to us. The other thing I'd like to bring up, and this isn't to be voted on, but whoever has a good connection with AMP, Dr. Haffa, whoever has good connections with that, perhaps we want to televise this. Perhaps our meetings, you know, they're always looking for something, so they don't have to do so many reruns of others. Maybe we could think at least, it doesn't have to be part of this motion, which I haven't made anyway, but it would be something we could look into in order to incorporate people in and give them an opportunity. So for trustees, as a recap, that would mean being here at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays as opposed to 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Lauren, I know you're going to want to add to this. So. But is that something that's even worth considering?
We're still discussing.
We absolutely were
There's no
discussing, and then once we have a motion, then we will entertain public comment.
Okay, so I'm really excited about this. I have two requests, and the first one is the ability to push the meeting back to maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening.
Now that'll go till, for people, go till 11:30.
And I heard that it sounds like there's ability to shift things in the agenda. I'm just curious, would it be possible, and this is my second request, instead of having student, faculty, and staff reports at the bottom of the agenda, can we move them further up? Because I think that was something that was brought to my attention, thank you so much, Yuri, when she was giving me my orientation, that historically, if the reports are all the way at the end, if there's a lot of discussion, people are staying here till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, but if we push their reports up, that might help. And then if we choose to discuss and discuss and discuss, and we enjoy being here till 10 o'clock, that's on us.
But that means that the people in the audience are here during the new business, that they very well may want to be able to, that would seem to be the thing most people in the audience are here for, is to make their point known during the times we're voting on things. Again, I'm going to go with whoever.
We've had it both ways. When we first began, or I came on the board, we decided that we would put the business items at the front, showing the value of the business that we were conducting. And the reports came afterwards. Prior to that, the reports had come first, and the business came later, and the audience had pretty much gone home by the time the business items were considered. So that's why we switched them. And there is no perfect solution, and there is no perfect time that satisfies everyone. Dr. Steck, do you have?
A question, what kind of audience are we talking about? How many people do we get usually in our audience?
I don't think this looks necessarily unique, except for people standing here, but there's times. I mean,
So everybody has a beginning.
Depends on how mad they are.
That's true. But we've had people who are mad, we've had evening meetings, right? We've done that.
Could you speak closer?
I said, but we've had people who were angry or they were worried about something. We've had evening meetings, and that's a good
Yes,
policy.
exactly.
Policy to have. Most of what we do is pretty non-controversial. It doesn't generate any kind of public interest at all. We usually end up talking to essentially the people who were forced to be here by virtue of their jobs, and that's it. So that's most of what we do. And when I first came on the board, so my history starts 15 years ago. For the first 8 of those 15 years, we met at 3 o'clock, and it worked well. We had, again, virtually no public input whatsoever in the evening. We had evening meetings. When we went to other campuses, when we went to the Molina campus, we used to, this was a more or less audience, because I wanted people to have an opportunity to come talk to us. And who we had in those Molina meetings was exactly the same people who were forced to be there and nobody else. Typically, most of what we do is not very controversial. And so we still went from 3 o'clock meetings to this 11 o'clock thing with 1:30 public session. It doesn't seem to make much difference. I can certainly go back to 3 o'clock. I have learned the hard way that most of what we do doesn't really generate any controversy, and that means there's no people involved, nobody interested in what we do except for our students and the people who are forced to be here.
But that would be 3 o'clock. I'm sorry. You're leading it.
I was leaning in. Just, I appreciate that many of the business items aren't going to be controversial, but I guess I take issue with the idea that they're not of interest to the community. You know, and I realize that you probably didn't mean it that way, but when I was talking to the community, people really care about NPC, and they may not be coming to these board meetings, but to the extent that we can create a space that makes it possible for them to participate, shows that this board actually cares about our community being engaged in our college. So
I've said that. I've made exactly that argument before.
We can also kick this can down and try something and always revisit in June if it didn't work. I mean, we have all this power to change it again. But give it long enough. You know, we want to try it later.
Okay. Is there someone who would like to make a motion?
I'd be interested in hearing from the public before we make a
Okay.
motion. if that's possible. It's procedurally okay.
Yeah, all right. Is that acceptable? And Elise, do you?
Lauren's about to explode. So.
Oh, okay. Wait, we'll let Lauren go. Lauren.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elise, I didn't know.
No problem.
I just want to note, I addressed this topic just a couple of weeks ago at the November board meeting, and the reason I did is because we at this point have 2 years of observable data. When the meetings are held at 1:30, the people who come are almost exclusively from one building on this campus. Right? Faculty are not able to come, students are not able to come, and we have effectively blocked any community member with, frankly, a 9 to 5 or an evening job from coming. So I really think that, and not to disparage your non-scientific survey, it was very well notated as such, I really think we ought to consider that data, because I've been at meeting after meeting after meeting, and you all have been there looking at a room that, quite frankly, didn't really look like this. I mean, we have representatives from local government agencies here, we have community members here in a far larger number, and I understand that this is a unique event because we're swearing in new trustees, but I mean, the simple reality is that holding the meeting at 1:30 effectively blocks the community from coming and participating. And I have to agree with Trustee Anderson that when I was out speaking to people over the course of the fall, right, there are people who are interested in MPC. And we need to begin to think about the fact that maybe, right, we are not doing the best that we could do by our community, and that's why we're seeing some of the challenges emerge within our community and our service to the community.
Lauren, if we went, can I engage?
There are other people who would like to make comments, and I'd like to go through those if we could.
Good afternoon. Just speaking on this matter, I don't appreciate being characterized as someone who would only come to a board meeting because there's something controversial. I've been employed at this college for over 30 years in different capacities. I care very deeply about this college. If I wasn't teaching until 4 p.m., I would attend many more board meetings because I care about what happens at this college. And as far as I'm concerned, I will make a commitment to come to more board meetings should the time be changed. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yes, Mr. Sereno.
Yes, a couple of things. One with respect to, I think, as the board was speaking, with respect to having at the front end of the meeting, the unions, for example, CSEA, the teachers union, the students, and other groups that normally would give a report, that those be right at the beginning, right after the consent, or before the consent calendar, or right after the consent calendar, that they be allowed to speak. That way, if they have something to say, they come in, and then if they have to go do something else, they can go do something else. So, to me, I think that's a very good idea. We've used it in all our board meetings at Hartnell, and also our meetings at the County Board of Education meetings. So they were always up front, and we wanted to hear what they had to say. So I think that's a very good idea. Also, I want to ditto what Lauren just said, because I think it's important that faculty and students have the opportunity to come to meetings. And as you know, last month I came and I said a few words, and I had to run to go teach a class, so I couldn't stay for the discussion. I would have loved to have stayed for the discussion. But I think as most faculty on this campus, during that time, and most students during the time we're attending classes, we can't participate. And so effectively, we're being left out of the process of having our opinions or input because we just can't come. So I would appreciate also a change in the time in which people in the community, because the community also works between 8 and 5, and so you'd have more ability of people to come to the meeting.
Thank you. Dr. Haffa?
Kind of on the side, I do think it would be great if these meetings were video cast on AMP. I think that part of the thing is the public doesn't often know what is happening at MPC. But as far as your meeting times go, One thing you might consider is having the closed session on a different day, and then that way, for example, you could have that at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock on one day, and have the regular meeting at 4 or 5 on a different day, and it wouldn't go quite so late. So just a suggestion.
Interesting idea, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hunt.
Alexis Bolin, Administrative Assistant. I think it's a good idea that you guys are playing around with alternate times. I would like to remind the board members that those who have to be here are mostly administration, reports that are given or special things that need to be addressed. Our deans have to be here, our VPs have to be here, and they do come in at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So if we were to have an evening board, they would be looking at a very long day, given it's once a month, but it is an extremely long day. If any of our classified have to be here for any given reason, that is a shift in their schedule or it's overtime. We're also looking to grow enrollments. And so one of our focuses is evening classes. We will still have students and faculty who cannot attend an evening one. Maybe a midday would be best because then you can hit with multiple public comments. You can hit the different audiences. I don't think we'll ever find a right time to have a board meeting, but I would like the board to really consider all factors in this. And we are community college, we do have students who have to work. And their shifts may be in the evening because we have a hospitality industry. And so they're at work. So to say that the students cannot attend this time, students don't even know what a trustee or a board is. So, thank you.
Not all students.
Not all students, but some. Thank you.
Alexa, thank you. It's important to get the perspective of staff as well as faculty as well as community, and we value all of the comments. Please, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Wes White. I'm a Salinas resident and also do a YouTube channel, video a lot of civic, social, environmental justice activity. And I brought this up to a couple other boards as well. MK is the Monterey County Arts Entertainment Television, and it's a bunch of high school students, and I think we really need to get them plugged in. I'm hoping that at least this is voice recorded, if not video recorded, yeah, documentation is huge, and those community service hours are really easy to rack up. You got your somewhat slave labor in children still, but yeah. There's a lot of board meetings that kind of get dropped, and that's why I come to these, because if it's not being videoed, I definitely want to get it videoed. And if you're already videoing, then I don't have to make it a high priority. And I look forward to the direction you're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, and thank you for being here today.
Hi, Alex Miller, City of Seaside resident. I hope that the time that you guys choose, you guys will think about parking, and people that come to this campus, they'll be able to park. I have a vacant parking today that doesn't make me quite the happiest man. I think that we should have a free parking so that people from the community can come and engage, and that's what you guys want. So we need a time that works, and then we're not going to enforce parking so people can come to the board meetings and give their input. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the first time that idea has ever come forward. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Heather Craig, Academic Senate. I just wanted to clarify, are the deans required to be at the board meetings?
I do.
Or is it?
Mr. Walker.
It is an expectation for the deans here to be here to support staff if additional information is required.
I would argue that that's a really good reason for doing these meetings late, because the rest of us are trying to get access to our deans during the day. Add that into the mix. Yeah, because when you go up to the administration building to get something done at this time of day, this week, every month, there's nobody there to get your work done. So it's difficult for us as well for that reason. Thank you.
All right.
Take a stab at it.
Please, I'd love to have a motion on the
I can make a
table.
stab at this.
And would you speak into your...
Yes, I will. The only reason, by the way, I brought up AMP is they didn't know we were trustees, and I want to make sure we're up. Okay, I'm going to...
Moment of fame.
I'm going to propose that we do meet in closed session at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that will go till 4 p.m. and that we then meet at 4 p.m. as a bridge between day and evening. And that go until 6 p.m. with doing the reports. So switching what we're doing right now, that will cut down on some of the overtime for people that would have to stay. And then from 6:30 till hopefully no later than 8:30, but we'll see. It's open-ended at the end. We go to new business. And that we do have public comment at 4 and again at 6.
Is there a second?
Before,
Let me just.
Let us second it, we'll open it up for discussion.
Is there a second?
Can I ask a question? I want to make sure that I have it clearly in the notes.
Well then, you weren't listening to me.
I was listening to you, I just want to clarify to make sure that I have it correct. I have from 2 to
2:30.
2:30.
2:30 to 4 would be closed session.
Okay.
4, and this can, there may be a 10-minute break in here and stuff as we see what we're doing. But 4 to 6 would be presentations.
Correct.
And 6:30, we're going to need a half hour in there then. 6:30 till closing that we do new business.
But then you wanted public comment at 6.
And public comment at both 4 o'clock and at 6:30.
Got it.
All right, is there a second?
I'm not surprised nobody wants to.
Is there a second? Okay. All right.
I did my best.
Is there another motion that someone would like to make?
I don't yet have a motion, but I generally supported the time in terms of moving closed session to 2:30, and then open session at 4. I don't know that we need to get into the specifics of where everything is organized at this point. I think that that's part of what the chair does in terms of establishing the agenda. So with a commitment to ensuring that we have adequate public comment period, that creates opportunities in multiple locations on the agenda. I think that, I would be supportive, or I would make a motion that we have closed session from 2:30 to 4, and then we have open session beginning at 4 until the meeting ended.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Now, is there any more discussion? Elise, you've been very patiently waiting for us too.
Can Elise speak first?
Yeah, just a second.
You stay right here.
Mr. Johnson, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
who's going to speak first?
Elise is going to speak first.
I think as a student that either time, whether it's in the middle of the day or the evening, is going to be tough for us. I have kids, so an evening meeting is also tough for me, but I do think that we're all here to commit to this time, regardless of our schedules. We have to be here and serve our position. And so for me, I just wanted to let you all know that I'm willing to go along with whatever you all decide. And I will make amendments in my schedule to fit them. So, thank you.
What a delightful student trustee we have. I hope you will all agree. Thank you so much, Elise, for your service. Mr. Serena.
I know that you guys just got into board docs, right?
Yes.
You're just using board docs. And so I've used that for 3 years. At the Hartnell Community College. We have been using that for 3 years. And I can tell you that the board docs is a very good system. And it cut down on meeting times. We met at 5, and by 6 we were out of closed session meetings. And the board meetings would go between 6 and 8 at the most. Most of the time, 7:30. But because everything was included and everybody had a chance to read everything prior to the meeting. So the only thing up for discussion was clarification or only on those issues that we really needed to talk about. But even there, we always got out of the board meetings between 7:30, and 8. And so I think you have a system that can be very efficient and can help you manage the time better so that you don't have to stay, for these long board meetings in which, you go home, have a sleep, so.
Thank you, Mr. Serena. Did you have a comment?
Yes. I'm glad you brought up the issue of time management. I'm not understanding why closed session is taking so much time. Is there that much robust discussion in closed session? And then the other piece that I'm curious about is what time does the last day class end so that we could capture students and community members between that gap? Because I'm imagining there's a time when teachers, the faculty and everyone is assembling in between the time that the day stops and the nighttime classes stop. Because I would think, just hypothesizing, that would be the sweet spot to have meeting, public comment. I'm not understanding why.
Mr. Walker, can you speak to that?
Yes, we have classes that go, again, from 8 to 10, and the challenge is, and I think we're discussing it now, I've been here a long time too, and there's been evenings, there have been day meetings, we've made adjustments throughout the years, trying to address the current status. I think this is a healthy conversation, and it might be time to revisit a new time. I don't think, specifically to your question, it might be between 4 and 5. That would be probably 4 to 6, the least amount of classes that may be available. But with that said, it's important to look at inclusion, and there may be that niche of students that are the most invested in coming here. So to say this is a better time than that, I think a decision needs to be made, and then you move forward with it and then reassess. Because this is a new day and time, we have new individuals, let's give it an opportunity to do something different, and then come back and revisit that at a later date.
Thank you for your wise counsel and your experience that you can share with us. All right, we have a motion and we have a second, and the motion is that the closed session be held from 2:30 to 4, and that the regular meeting open at 4 o'clock until it's concluded, with a commitment to allowing time for adequate public comments. Did I state that pretty correctly? And speaking to Natalia's point about closed session, when there is not material enough to last an hour and a half, the closed session is shortened. So the closed session time varies depending on the amount of material that needs to be covered. The chair and the vice chair meet with the superintendent president a couple of weeks prior to the meeting. We review the agenda and the material that's going to be on the agenda, trying to keep it balanced so that one meeting doesn't go, we don't have 5 lengthy reports to read and digest, which we have always done, even with paper copies. We've done in advance, Mr. Serena. It still does not limit the discussion that we have needed to have. And so we do vary the closed session time, and that is flexible, but the public session is always, we need to be consistent with the time, and of course we need to post what time we are meeting in closed session and when that's going to begin, and we always follow the adequate notification amounts of time for the public. All right, are you ready, Lauren?
In fairness, Marilyn, I think that when we have had different lengths of time for closed sessions, pretty much always they have started at the same time and they've just stopped when we're done with the closed session topics.
Yes.
So if we start at 1:30 and we're done by, if we start at 11 o'clock and we're done by 11:15, then we'd be out at 11:15. We don't usually start at different times. We usually start at a constant time, and then it goes until we're done. And as you'll see in most of our agendas, there's always something at the bottom in case we're not done with the closed session before the public session starts, and we always have the option to continue the closed session later on in the day.
Thank you. Our board members, are you ready to vote on the motion? All right. All those in favor of, let me read it. Be it resolved that the fourth Wednesday of each month at 4 o'clock, fourth Wednesday of each month at 4 o'clock in the Sam Karras Room, Library and Technology Center, Monterey Peninsula College, be designated as the day, time, and place of the regular meetings of the Monterey Peninsula Community College District Governing Board, with the attached exceptions which are in the attachment that you have all seen having to do with changed meeting dates.
Fourth Wednesday.
Fourth Wednesday of each month. Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Applaud.
I'm so sorry, because we weren't necessarily looking at the calendar, but I hope that in a future meeting, we can have a conversation about scheduling, the potential scheduling of a joint meeting between this governing board and our academic senate. As I've been to different meetings, I've heard Dr. Craig mention a couple of times the invitation to this board, the fact that both are Brown Act entities, and I think it would be a really good opportunity for us to be together as leaders of this college and then talk about, moving forward and how we partner. So there was a lot of discussion about time, but I hope that in a future time we can maybe look at a date, assuming interest of the Senate, to have a joint meeting together.
Special meetings are always available by request. Thank you for the right
And
word.
that includes study sessions.
That's what I mean by special meetings, study sessions, board retreats we've talked about. There's a number of things because we all need an opportunity as well to get acquainted, and interesting background that you both have. Okay, let's go on. Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. Craig.
Sorry, Heather Craig, Academic Senate. I just wanted to thank you for recognizing that we need that communication. I think it's a very sound business idea to really understand your product. And if you really want to understand the teaching that we do here, you need to get together with us. But we've hoped to have a little bit more open communication. And I think with some of the big changes that are in the works, absolutely critical time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Craig. Okay, we are now on to recognition and acknowledgement of guests. We have a lot of guests in the audience today. I would like to welcome all the family members and supporters of our new candidates that are here. We did. That was part of it. That was part of the motion. Okay. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other guests that you would like to recognize, Mr. Welker? Okay. All right.
Well, you saw my family. My mom's also here. I just wanted to do that.
Hi, Mom.
Besides that, we do have NPUSD trustee Wendy Root Askew here. And Councilman Jonathan Wizard I also saw in the Councilman Alan Haffa as well for the city. Probably missing someone, but I just think it's really exciting, and personally as a representative for both, primarily Marina, but also portions of Seaside, it's really great to have some of our other electeds here and taking interest in our college.
Absolutely. We are delighted that you have attracted such a distinguished crowd today. We love it. Okay, public comment. Anyone wishing to address the governing board on matters not listed on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board may do so now. If you would please, anyone wishing to address the board on an agenda item may do so when that item is called. Matters not appearing on the agenda will not receive action at this time, etc. Yes?
Thank you. I would like to, before I say anything, is recognize a gentleman that's here that's being a mover and a shaker and a mentor to me, Dr. Bill Melendez,
Yes.
who has been all these years. And I wanted to just say that it's very enlightening to see that the older board members are really excited about them having new board members and their ideas. And I just wanted to say that, you know, we started working on district elections a long time ago. And because of that, we were able to change the color complexions of decision-making bodies throughout Monterey, throughout what is called the curtain wall. I mean, the lettuce wall, beyond the lettuce wall. And I'm glad that the browning of those boards is now here. And I'm happy to see that there's a whole new board, color of the board. It's going to make a whole bunch of difference. And I also wanted to say that I apologize for having to leave last month, but I'm glad that at least I started a conversation. And I think that, you know, these kinds of issues don't need to be confrontational. That these kinds of issues need to be approached from the position of trying to work together, creating conversations, creating knowledge, creating ideas, and talking to each other. Because we're all in the same community, so I think it's important that we do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I saw, Jill, Sandy, I made you wait a long time.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Marilyn asked me to come and share some news with you all. I'm Jill Zandy. I'm the Associate Director and the Co-Principal Investigator for the MATE Center. MATE is the Marine Advanced Technology Education Center. Many of you are familiar with my colleague Deidre Sullivan, who's the Director of the MATE Center. She would have loved to have been here, but she's traveling this week. So I'm here, and for those of you, especially our new trustees who might not be familiar with the MATE Center, again, the Marine Advanced Technology Education Center. We are a center based here at Monterey Peninsula College. We are supported through a grant from the National Science Foundation to MPC, and we have been here for over 20 years. So it's, very exciting. As the name implies, we focus on marine technology education, or rather we use the ocean and marine science and technology as really a hook to get students interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and to help impart to them the skills, the knowledge, and the aptitudes, the ability to problem solve, think creatively, work as a team, as you all are doing, to brainstorm solutions to problems. That is our goal, really, and to help prepare them for the workplace. So again, we've been around for over 20 years here on campus. We have a technical internship program that's put students out to sea on research vessels. We run professional development workshops for faculty. We have done workforce research in the past. And then we have, this is the program that I run, so I like to say I saved the best for last. It's the Student Underwater Robotics Competition, the MATE ROV competition, remotely operated vehicle, underwater robot. So very exciting. Deidre couldn't be here, but I do want to point out my colleague Matt Gardner, who is here in the audience. He is the competition technical manager and my partner in crime in creating this program and pulling it off every year. So in addition to my role with the MATE Center, I am also the president and executive director of MATE 2. That's MATE Inspiration for Innovation, MATE 2, play on words you can see. We are a nonprofit. We were organized just about 2 years ago, so we're young, we're fledgling, we're growing. We received our 501c3 status in April of 2017. And really, MATE 2 was created to support and sustain the activities of the MATE Center that we started. With our main focus right now is the MATE Underwater Robotics Competition. That's a program, and I'm going to brag for a second because I have the opportunity and the mic. It is a program. We are international. We have a network of 37 regional events that take place across the country and around the world. We have events across the continental U.S., in Hawaii, in Canada. We have events in Hong Kong. We are creating a program in mainland China. We've got one in Russia, the UK. We are developing one in India. And just this morning, I was on a Skype call with King Abdullah University of Science and Technology from Saudi Arabia. And they are interested in starting a program there. So it's fantastic to see how this program is going and grown. Sometimes it's hard to keep up. But I'm committed to doing that, and with this nonprofit, with Mate 2, again, that's really the focus to help sustain that program. Now, the Mate Center, we will always pursue federal grants. As a matter of fact, I'm planning to submit a supplemental to one of our grants. I was going to talk to you about that, Becky. At some point, I'll plan to do that before the end of the year. But as you can imagine, having that 501c3 status, you can appreciate being a nonprofit and the doors that it's opening and the opportunities it's providing. It's allowing us to diversify our revenue stream, if you will. And I'm really pleased to share, and this is why Marilyn asked me to come, the primary reason. We were recently awarded funding from Motorola Solutions Foundation to the tune of $30,000. And that really is geared towards increasing underrepresented groups, their participation in the competition program. It has a real focus on women and ethnic minorities, and so we look forward to working with the foundation to do that, Motorola Solutions Foundation to do that. More than that, it is opening up the door to their employees. They have an amazing volunteer network. I was able to go down and participate in a presentation that is broadcast throughout their network with the goal of getting their employees involved, volunteering as judges and mentors. So it's a really fantastic opportunity for us. Also, by the end of the year, I expect that we'll be getting a check from Microsoft. They are contributing anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. More than that, they are working with us on a competition mission challenge that uses some of their products. So we're excited that we have the opportunity to use Microsoft and their cloud-based computing. It helps to keep the competition relevant and provide those opportunities to our students. We have Eastman Company. They're based in Kingsport, Tennessee. You would think, okay, underwater robotics in Kingsport, Tennessee. Yes, we are going to Kingsport, Tennessee next year for the MATE International ROV competition. The company is dabbling in chemical oceanography, has some projects with people who were formerly out here from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, and they recruited us to come to Kingsport. Now, while they might not be writing us a check, the in-kind contribution that they will provide in terms of facilities and access to the resources will likely be over, close to $100,000. So we are so excited. It's an amazing opportunity, and we have been contracted by Upward Bound program here on campus, and Matt and I just met with Upward Bound directors today to plan out the summer. We're going to be offering an underwater robotics activity during their programs, both here and up at UC Santa Cruz. So we're excited to contribute, and it's really, again, an exciting time for us. I'm very passionate. I've been here for 20 years. I've earned every gray hair on my head, I'm afraid. But we're excited to keep the program going. We see this as a new opportunity. It's also a challenge, but of course with challenge comes opportunity. And I just want to say, it's really an exciting time for us, but I also feel like it's an exciting time for MPC. With Becky's office, I don't even pretend to compete with the foundation and Becky's office and the amount of funding that's been brought to this campus to support students. I want to thank her office and your staff. You've been amazingly helpful and a great resource and mentoring, and Marilyn as well. So again, it's an exciting time. The opportunity to look for new leadership, although I hate to see Dr. Tribely leave us, it's a wonderful opportunity. And just to see this energy here with the new trustees, I'm also encouraged to see, sorry gentlemen, that the females outnumber the males on the board here. So again, exciting time. Thank you for letting me share this. Thank you for all the support. I'm really pleased to be here. And I have one other final comment. To encourage students to come, Matt will back me up on this. food, feed them. We have learned over the 18 years of running the underwater robotics competition, but if you have food, that's a big attraction. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And she announced to me the award that they were given. I invited her to come and share with all of you because I thought it was a marvelous opportunity. It's just one of the many outstanding programs we have here at the college that make it special. And how old's our little girl now?
11.
Oh dear.
It has been with me in growing my daughter from along the way, 11.
Thank you, Jill. Yes, please, Kathleen.
What a wonderful example of the programs MPC offers, the unique opportunities. It's awesome. Tough act to follow, but I'm not even going to try. Really, what I'd like to do is just congratulate our 2 new trustees and let you know how excited I am that you're here, and I'm very confident that you will be wonderful representation for the diverse community MPC serves. The other day I had an opportunity to attend the town hall meeting that was held to elicit input for the new superintendent president search. And I brought my class with me because I had to, because I was teaching all day. And I was happy that my students were there, and I wish that more students had had the opportunity to attend. And I'm also really happy to hear that we're discussing perhaps a different meeting time for board meetings so that more students and staff can attend. And I would just really like to encourage the board on their search to encourage more input from everyone and to take that input to heart. It may not be articulated in the most eloquent way, particularly I work with students with disabilities. They may have some challenges in expressing themselves verbally. And I also believe that we need to hear from everyone. So I'm really excited. This is a great time of opportunity for us. And I hope we seize that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for all the things you do for our students who need additional help. It's always one of my great pleasures to attend the graduation in the spring, the graduation celebration that that department has, as those students who have worked so hard to achieve their educational goals, because perhaps they work harder than others. Okay, are we ready to go on to the consent calendar? All right, someone who would like to, the chair will entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Is there any other discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now I can move through this to, oh dear. As we get used to all of our new things, let's move on down through the consent calendar. We'll go to new business. All right. Thank you. And you don't need any business. Okay. And this is, thank you. All right, here it is. Be it resolved that the governing board approves the attached 2018-2019 salary schedule for short-term, non-continuing, non-classified, and student employee salary schedules effective January 1, 2019. All right, we have a motion and a second. And are there any questions? Do you want to speak to that just a bit, Mr. Walker?
Sure.
Explaining a little background about this.
Sure. Actually, the background is very good in your board agenda. This is based off Senate Bill 3, which increases the minimum wage for, on our campuses, our student workers. So the background information contained in there is pretty accurate. This is a California law that we're abiding by.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
I just can
Please,
clarify.
please.
Is this all student workers or this is some staff workers as well?
This is our student scale. Our staff, maybe I'll have David Martin speak a little bit more to the salary schedule, but I know it does impact our student workers.
Yes, the biggest population that is affected is our student workers. I do believe if we have short-term or substitute staff that we do pay on an hourly basis, this would apply, but our salary schedules are in above this state mandated amount.
So I appreciate that, and I intend to vote for the motion. I just have to say that I was surprised by some of the salaries that, or the hourly wages that are being offered to workers, not just the students. I think it's great that we're bringing the students up, but that folks that we're bringing on as part-time and temporary, and thinking about how we live here in our community. Hope that, I realize that budget is something we'll talk about and whatnot, but hope that we can have some conversations about how we're ensuring that we compensate people in a way that they can afford to live in our community.
All those in, oh, excuse me. Yes, Lauren.
I just want to note, since this matter concerns the minimum wage, that we do have a group of people on campus who are represented by MPCTA. Their salaries are set in the MPCTA contract with Monterey Peninsula College, Community College District, who each semester are asked to sign a document which says that they will work no more hours that will put them at minimum wage. These are our assistant coaches. They consistently are asked to sign that document. They always work more hours because, as it turns out, it takes more hours to run a team, to put them through practices, games, the training, the retreats, all the things that those people are responsible for. So while I appreciate that the board is taking action to reflect the minimum wage increase, which they are required to do so by law, I think it would be a good idea if maybe the board could ask some questions about really who's being paid minimum wage on this campus, and it does include people who are not student workers, and there are the people who are consistently paid less than minimum wage on this campus. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. That is a good question to be sure that we ask. Okay. All those in favor of the recommended motion?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we are now on to item B. Be it resolved that the governing board approves the employment agreement between the Monterey Peninsula Community College District and Mr. Lyndon Schutzler, serving as the interim dean of student services assigned to athletics, physical education, and health services for the period of January 1, 2019 through June 30, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. And can you just give us a,
Sure.
if you don't mind, and you trustees, I'm not trying to be condescending, but I wanted you to understand where this had come from in the scheme of things.
Yes. Again, as in your background, there is a document that shows the MOU that was signed between the district and the CTA to take this athletic director position and take it out of the unit to make it a management position. In the context of that particular MOU, it also called for an expedited search for an interim position. So that's what this particular action item reflects. And I can speak more to after.
I can come back and sit down.
Afterwards, about once the board makes a decision on the position, I can add some additional color commentary to it.
It was part of the
Yes.
that was signed.
Yeah, as I mentioned, yeah, it was in this, the MOU was in the background information.
All right, any other questions?
So it was actually a question I had a chance to talk to Larry about beforehand, but if you could just share for the benefit of the public. So this is individuals being recommended to be hired at step 5 on the salary scale, which I understand is the top of the administrative.
Correct.
So if you can just provide some additional justification for that would be appreciated, because I'm also wondering if we have a particular policy, which now that I'm on the policy committee, I'll dive into, that talks about how those decisions are made and how that justification is brought to this board.
Okay. So actually, there isn't a board policy. This is up at the discretion of the superintendent president for the administrative salary. For this particular situation, looking at the breadth and depth and experience of this individual, that's why we're recommending step 5. Any other placement for this individual, ironically, would be either less or at the relatively the current rate that he's currently receiving as a full-time faculty member with his extended weeks. And given that there's more responsibility, we feel it warrants that. We don't want the successful candidate taking a decrease in pay or being at the same level of pay with the added responsibility.
Natalia, did you have a question? Okay, thank you. Are there any other? Oh, excuse me, Lauren. Yes.
Hi. I want to congratulate Lyndon, but I also want to note that part of the context for this, part of the context is that nearly 2 years ago, MPC was audited by CalSTRS, and as a result, a significant number of our faculty had large hits to their retirement savings. Any extended work years that they were working were diverted from the defined benefit plan to the supplemental plan, which pays at a much lower rate. So I just want to note that the athletic director position was one of several positions that was in that situation and and I hope that if something like that happens again, right, that we have the opportunity to work more collaboratively, because we had a large number of faculty who were vulnerable to losing between 10 and 20% of their retirement savings, some of whom had worked here for decades, some of whom were near retirement, and that type of vulnerability really does have the effect of diminishing the kind of mutual trust on this campus. This is not something that people weren't aware of. It affected faculty members in a whole host of different divisions, and although this outcome is clearly going to be one that brings us into line with other colleges, the fact that this came after 18 months of those faculty being left without full retirements, of our negotiating team trying to find a solution with the college without success, I think is really something that we could all agree, even though this is a happy moment, that we could all agree we don't want to see repeated. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, all those in favor of the recommended motion?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Yes, please.
So again, thank you, board, for recognizing that. And I think Mr. Schutzler is here. Can you please stand? I'm going to make you get embarrassed. Just wanted to take a few moments just to acknowledge the work that you've been doing for this college for the past almost 30 years. You've been a staunch supporter, given your role and responsibility as a faculty member, looking at the college as a whole, working diligently to make sure that the students that you come in contact with, the staff that you come in contact with, the faculty that you come in contact with, the administration that you come in contact with, the community, everybody receives your attention and you give that to them. In your new role here at the college, you will serve us well in being a bridge for student services and academic affairs, bringing us closer together. Also, being a voice for not only our classified staff, but our faculty as well as our administration. In the work that you do and have done over the years in this new role, there's an expectation from all of us, and I know you, that you will continue the integrity that you've brought to this institution over the past 30 plus years and continue to make a difference in the lives of people that you come in contact with. The breadth, depth, knowledge of your experience and your contributions to this college is cannot be replicated. When you are off, retired, your legacy will continue. People value your insight, people value you as a person, and we welcome you to remain at MPC in a new capacity. Congratulations to you.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I probably know...
Louis, would you introduce yourself to our new...
I'm Louis Leader. I work as a consultant for the school. I'm also on the MPC Foundation. I'm also the chair of the Booster Committee. And I've probably known Lyndon more than anybody in this room. More than a few years ago, Lyndon was a star pitcher at PG High, and I was a sports writer at the Herald. And I would just want to add to what Larry has said. Lyndon's service, not only to the school, but to this community, is exemplary. And having sat on the MPC Booster Committee for a couple of years, and Lyndon and Becky are key players there, it's just the work that Lyndon has done for this school and in representing this community is non-pareil. And the school will have enormous shoes to fill when Lyndon decides to step down as athletic director.
Thank you for those nice comments, Becky. Okay, item C, approval of new courses. Be it resolved that the following new courses and program be approved. New courses are PFIT 23A, Functional Fitness 1, PFIT 23B, Functional Fitness 2, Phys Ed 9A, Pickleball 1, Phys Ed 9B, Pickleball 2, and a new program, Elementary Teacher Education Associate in Arts for transfer.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. And Mr. Walker, do you want to speak to these new courses?
Yes, I will speak to them by deferring to our Dr. John Canoli, our Dean of Academic Affairs, to give us a little bit more information on these new courses and new program.
Dr. Canoli, we welcome you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. In Vice President Kama's place today, I'll be able to share a little bit of information about the courses that are coming to you. And as always, the new courses and new programs that come to you represent the hard work of our talented faculty members and their expertise to develop and maintain our curriculum, as well as the diligent hard work of our Curriculum Advisory Committee, which is the committee of faculty that review and approve all of the new curriculum that would come to you. The physical education courses, Physical Education 9A and 9B, the Pickleball 1 and 2, are interesting new courses, and they're new courses developed by our physical education faculty members. They provide students with a new physical education option in addition to the other activities that are already in the department. Pickleball is something that's gaining some popularity around the state. There are tournaments, statewide and nationwide, taking place in pickleball. And you'll also see that some of our colleagues at other colleges, specifically ones that we found, Crafton Hills, Santa Rosa, Cypress, and Foothill, already have added pickleball to their physical education inventory of courses. So we're excited to see more options for our students. And as always, our faculty will be adding those courses to their cycle of assessment to make sure learning assessment continues to take place and that we maintain that effort. And they will evaluate those courses for possible inclusion in physical education or physical fitness programs as well. As of right now, they're going to be introduced as standalone courses, but may very well make their way into programs in the near future. Similarly, PFIT 23A and 23B, the functional fitness, are new courses developed by our physical fitness faculty. Those are in demand to a new area called functional fitness, which is a new trend in fitness focusing on the needs of students to lead healthier, more active lifestyles. Those courses will also be added to their assessment cycle to continue to meet those needs and assess how those courses are going, and they'll also be evaluated for possible inclusion in physical education, physical fitness programs. The Elementary Education AAT is a new program we bring to you, and that is one of our associate degree or transfer programs. This one in particular is very timely in that we've been developing over the past semester a new partnership with Csumb in their education program, and you've heard Ms. Kamath talk about that over the past couple of meetings if you've been here. For those of you who haven't, I'll give you kind of a nutshell brief of that program, we recognize that there's a shortage of teachers statewide, and it's particularly in demand in our area as well. Our own school districts are really having a hard time finding new qualified teachers every year. And so Dr. Tribley has facilitated meetings between CSUMB, ourselves, and our K-12 districts over the past semester, talking about how we can address that shortage and that need. This particular program was designed specifically around the associate degree for transfer requirements, which is a focus we often take for transfer-related degrees moving forward, as well as ensuring that it aligns well with CSUMB's education program so that students could potentially finish the 4-year degree and teacher education requirements in 4 years as opposed to 5, to more quickly accelerate them into their educational careers. Also just add that a new full-time faculty member in the area of education was prioritized over this past semester, and the recruitment was approved by Dr. Tribley, and recruitment is currently in place for us to have a new full-time education faculty member, which would be someone to help oversee this program's future.
Wonderful. Very good.
Questions? Any other questions? Dr. Steck?
Sure, can you tell us how many AAT transfer programs we have now?
That's a really great question. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of the number that we have. However, we're on pace quite well in terms of how other colleges are doing with the inventory being submitted to the Chancellor's office. There is a general requirement that in any area where we have a transfer-oriented degree, we need to also now have the AAT or the AST, and we've done that for the areas where we have transferred. However, we have many new ones in the works, and you've recently approved social justice studies, and I would anticipate by our next meetings, which I believe take place in February now, you'll be seeing at least two new ones coming forward, and those are both related to social justice studies, one in gender and women's studies and one in ethnic studies, and those both align really well to CSUMB, San Jose State, and UC Santa Cruz as our 2-3 of our top transfer institutions. So we're really looking to make sure we make good progress, and it's all based on the very hard work of our faculty who are doing the heavy lifting of the program development.
Any other questions? Yes, Yuri.
Well, first a comment. I'm really excited to see the Associate for Transfer Program for Education, Bright Futures. We've been talking a lot about the teacher shortage in our county, and I'm excited that NPC is going to be contributing to filling that gap. I was a little less excited about pickleball and functional fitness. Just in terms of the justification that was provided, I'm not really, talks about increased interest from high school students. So is this something that we're planning on offering in our pathways, or is this an actual course offered on campus? Who's going to be teaching it? What's the real drive behind it and the benefit that it's going to be providing to students besides just a recreational opportunity?
So I can answer some of those questions. I may defer to Lyndon as well to jump in and help with this. In terms of the connection with high school, the way our dual enrollment program legislation is written nationwide, physical education is not qualified for dual enrollment unless we choose to focus on a pathway that includes physical education. And we may very well be developing a pathway with Carmel High School in the area of sports medicine, which would err on the side of the kinesiology, anatomy, physiology kinds of courses. But typically, traditional physical education, sports-related classes do not fall under the category by which we can offer dual enrollment courses. Or that I believe students who are coming here can take under the dual enrollment umbrella either. But with that said, they are courses that will be offered just like we offer tennis and any other physical activity within the program, tennis, volleyball, and so forth. There are many students that have come here to take tennis. The number of students who are interested in tennis have decreased because they've taken those classes, so this would be another option for, I guess, in a very uneducated way, a net-based sport that they might want to give a try to continue with more physical activity and continue to pursue activities within our physical education program. Liz, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. Dean Schutzler.
Dean Schutzler, we welcome you.
January 1. Yeah, pickleball. Larry said yesterday it was the title because the paddle was shaped like a pickle, which is not true. But actually, the title is related to the people who developed it had a dog named Pickle. I'm going to end it right there, okay? So, but one of the missions of the Physical Education Division, and we are in the process of changing the name to the Kinesiology Division, is to respond to local interest of the community. And this is an activity that has really grown in interest. Monterey has developed courts in the community. Pacific Grove is now developing courts in their community. It's noted that it's played in the high school, so that it's an expansion of student interest, and we're trying to, again, we try to respond. Sometimes that means deletion of courses as we move to new activities as the community has interest in them. I will also point out that the scientific evidence has been proven over and over that students do better in their academic endeavors if they are engaged in an active lifestyle and an activity. And one of my colleagues at at Diagonal Valley College, they actually now have a cohort where their math courses are preceded by a physical activity course, and they're having remarkable success with math completion by having activity prior to sitting in that lecture course. So that's another avenue that we may be pursuing in the near future. Okay.
How interesting, Elise.
So I just wanted to speak to the same thing that the new dean-elect, I guess I would say, has pointed out. Guided Pathways is definitely a program that is going to help students succeed. But I would note that regardless of your major, and regardless of your interest, having a physical activity option at school or having an artistic option at school. I'm an anthropology major personally. I took ballet 1 and 2 my first semesters here. And I just want to mention, even though I'm personally not interested in pickleball, I would love to learn more about it. And I do think that there is a lot of value in courses that can supplement your education and supplement your life. I think functional fitness, the idea behind it of living a healthy lifestyle, as well as the new physical education class proposed, are both two venues that I think will help balance out a student's experience, not to be completely bogged down with everything on Guided Pathways, but to have a couple options to stimulate other parts of your brain, I think is a very good idea. So I just wanted to speak to that.
Thank you.
Is pickleball 1 a prereq for pickleball 2?
Mr. Watt.
I just want to add a little bit more, some additional information about dual enrollment. Because Yuri, you asked high school students. So technically, dual enrollment is the umbrella. But within dual enrollment, there are two components. There's the AB 288, the law, CCAP, College and Career Access Pathways, which John was mentioning. And we also have dual enrollment under what I call the onesies. These are for students who are looking for scholastically advanced criteria. So any 1 through 99 course they could take. So you could have a student that's in a dual enrollment CCAP program at the high school that then comes into a non-CCAP course and decides to take a skills or an activity course in PE, if in fact it is not over a limit. There are a lot of regulations around it. But dual enrollment is an umbrella. Within dual enrollment, there's CCAP, AB 288 law, which is a pathway, a direct relationship with the high schools, and non-CCAP that any high school student can take.
Are we ready to vote on the motion? All those in favor of approving the courses listed, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we have one more and then we're going to take a short break. And this is information item, and it's an update on our superintendent-president search process. And I'm going to call on Dr. Lauren Steck, who is acting on behalf of the board to chair the search committee.
And so I will. So we are in the middle of our process. Those of you who have been following it know that we have hired a consultant, and we met the consultant. Let's see, 2 weeks ago we had a meeting and we were talking about the town hall meetings coming up. We held those town hall meetings last Wednesday, a week ago today, and is that right? I think so. Yeah. Last Wednesday, and we got about 110 people across 2 different town hall sessions. Very interesting discussions, very interesting dialogue, a lot of useful information that has been compiled by the Academic Senate Chair as well as the Classified Union President, and it's also being analyzed by our consultant, John Smith from CCSS, the Community College Search Services. So we're in the middle of the process. That's what I have. If anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them. It's an information item. I'm here to give you whatever information I have.
Why don't you share with us and with the audience then the next step, which is the brochure and the advertising?
Right. We will be, the information that we gathered from the town hall meetings will be input into our brochure. The traditional way in which you attract people to your position is through a brochure, and we've written several of them in the past, and we'll be writing this one as well. The brochure will talk about the college, talk about the interesting the opportunities we have at the college, as well as the characteristics that we're looking for in a new president. It's a fairly, it should turn out to be a pretty document. I have an idea that the person who has typeset it and aesthetically laid it out is Jamie DeLegian, who is also on the committee and also a faculty member here in
Creative Arts.
Thank you. But what's his title? I mean, what's his national position?
He's the division chair of Creative Arts, division chair of Creative Arts.
I know, but I'm thinking of the courses that he teaches.
Graphic arts.
Graphic arts, that's it, thank you. Graphic design. So he has done that, and he'll continue to do that for this brochure, I believe. The next steps will be writing the text, making sure that we have the text down, approving the text, and then I believe that we will have something for you at the January meeting, which is now in February, to approve the document. After that, the search is opened up, and it'll be an 8-week-long search, and it'll be open for 8 weeks. At the closure of it, then the committee will meet, and we will paper call as well as interview various candidates, and hopefully we'll interview on the order of 10 candidates who have applied, paper calling everybody else out. And among the 10 candidates, I believe that the committee is going to be forwarded to our board on the order of 3 candidates as finalists. At that point, until that point, everything is more or less secretive. When the finalists are announced, that becomes a public, a very public thing, and everyone will be invited to gather input at that point. We will have a series. Each of our finalists will come, and this is a long time from now. This is in May, but probably by May we will have finalists here, and they will do town hall meetings. They'll do the candidate forum kind of thing, which they will make a presentation and also answer questions, and then the board will interview them also. So that's the whole step. The board will make a final decision sometime, hopefully by the end of May or June. Our president, Riley, has announced his retirement, and we're trying to meet his deadlines if we possibly can.
Thank you very much.
And his deadline is September, I believe.
He wants to be done by September. He would be, I think he would be happy. Happy's not the right word, but he's willing to be done by June.
All right, you have a question, Natalia?
Yes, so these 2 town hall meetings that were held, there were only 2 of them, and they were held during the workday. I believe the announcement was made on the 30th of November that the town halls were taking place the following week. You know, I feel that the sample size of only 110 people, I would like to see more depth and breadth and more announcement and more community engagement. You know, as I read the wonderful binder that you gave me, Joreen, one of the things that I noted was one of our responsibilities in being a trustee member is to potentially, it doesn't happen always, but in our case, hiring a president. And one of the things that stood out to me in the content was to not make these decisions in haste. And I feel that this timeline feels really, really rushed. And I'm really concerned about that. I would like to see some more town hall meetings. I would like to see some in the evenings, perhaps some at the Marina campus. I'm wondering, I understand that the President Tribally will be exiting in September, but it is not unusual, and again, this is from my experience in the nonprofit sector, as well as doing my due diligence in the reading, to hire an interim. I want to know that in the work that I'm doing here, in the stewardship and the responsibility that I have, that I'm making the best the best due diligence that I can, and that I'm not being rushed into making such an important decision.
Those are very fair comments. Let's see, I'm not sure how I can respond to them particularly effectively, sorry. We had intended to provide more advanced notice for the town hall meetings. In the previous times we had done these kinds of things, we pretty much held one town hall meeting, and we got maybe half the number of people as we got this time. So we've had a couple. Now this is just, again, remember to give us the kinds of characteristics of the person, who we want to see, how we want to advertise the school, that kind of thing. This is that kind of information. And it's entirely likely that people who are not particularly familiar with the campus would have a lot of information that they want to give us about that. But it's also important that people who are associated with the campus be allowed to provide that kind of information. I don't think, and the proof will be in the pudding, but I don't think that the kind of information that we gather will do a disservice to the process or do a disservice to the college. I have an idea that it will actually turn out pretty well. I'm surprised at how well it did turn out. You also raised a question about an interim. In the interims, it's always possible to have an interim. And one thing that could easily happen is maybe the committee doesn't find anybody they want to give to us. My instructions to the committee have always been, give us people who you want. And if you give us only people who you want, then my board, us guys, can't make a bad decision from their perspective. So that's my admonition to the people on the committee. It may be the case that they don't find anybody they like. Or it may be the case also that they give us 3 people they like or 4 people they like, and we don't find anybody we like, in which case it's a failed search and we start over again. The process for getting an interim is kind of a shorter process than the process for getting a permanent president. Interims are sometimes considered to be caretakers that allow you to go slow, or there are other uses for interims also. And we could cross that path. When we get to that path, we'll come to that. I'm not very articulate today, I'm sorry. I'm on.
And if I might add, I would say that the town hall meetings that are held when the candidates are interviewed are widely attended across the campus community, across the community at large. And we, in the past, we as trustees, have invited input from everyone who has attended those meetings. What did you see? What did you find of interest? What would be concerns? Anyway, those are meetings that are, in my opinion, extremely substantive. Right now, we're looking at criteria, and
yes, Marilyn's exactly right. The time when traditionally, at least not traditionally, in my 15 years here, and looking at the other searches that I've seen, the time for public involvement is typically toward the end when we have finalists. Or when we have more or less we have finalists.
Just to add, is there still an opportunity for input and for that?
I'm glad you asked that. The answer is yes. When we had the town hall meetings, we also allowed for people to write. They could verbally say things or they could write notes. The notes could be anonymous, or they could be signed. It doesn't really make any difference. That was also sent out to the people at large. The community at large is very welcome to give us comments. We're hoping that should we get more comments from the community about who they'd like to have or what kind of characteristics they'd like to see, we hope that it's done before January 1st, because that's the time when we'll start compiling the results. So that gives people another 18 days or 19 days in this month to do it, and we've tried to announce that to the board. So yes, there's lots of more opportunity to participate if you want to.
I'm wondering if our new board members have those questions and those things to be able to reference that were asked at those town hall meetings, if they had access to that.
Yeah, if you don't have it, I can get it to you.
I did receive the questions, but I was just concerned that the community at large, the greater community, hasn't had the opportunity to talk about, this is what I want to see at MPC. I think it's wonderful to have engaged the internal community here, but what about the rest of our constituents? I'm not sure that was made available to them, and I don't understand how they would know about the questions that I received in my inbox. How would anyone know? I haven't seen anything in our local media. I haven't heard anything on NPR. So I think that community engagement piece is really, really critical. And I go back to that 110. You know, I have a public health background, and when you're looking at investigative studies, you look at the power of the study, and the power of your study is based on sample size. And your sample size for what we are looking for, I don't think it has a lot of power. I'm surprised we're impressed with having 110 people. I would want 200. I would want 250. And I understand in the past that when these things were done, the sample size was smaller. I still don't think we should be satisfied with that. I would like to hear that there's a possibility to move the timeline a little bit further along and offer the opportunity for Seaside and Marina folks to participate. I'm just really concerned that we don't have enough community engagement.
Elise? I'd like to agree with that. I think that having the town hall meetings when they were was very difficult for students to be able to attend. This is finals time. Last week was very busy, even though finals week is technically this week. We all had, well, I personally had finals last week as well, and a lot of studying and a lot of participation in my coursework, and I was not able to attend. So my question is, would we be able to hold another town hall at the beginning of the semester so that students at the beginning of the semester who don't have the workload that they do during midterms or finals, they might have more of an opportunity to be able to put input in. I think it is very important to me and to the students that I represent that we are able to put in as much input as possible. And I also wanted to ask you a question, Dr. Steck. Is there a student on the committee, the hiring committee?
There's no student.
So I'd like to propose that maybe we add a student to the hiring committee, because I do feel like that would be a more accurate representation of our college community here. I can't speak to the community at large as much, but as far as the student voice, I just think that a couple more town halls, like she said, maybe at a time when students weren't engaged in classes, would be definitely beneficial for the student community. And in addition, I do think that having a student on the committee would be also beneficial as well.
So if we were to add more town hall meetings, which is a totally fine thing to do, a totally reasonable thing to do, we couldn't do it
Into the mic, please.
I'm sorry. If we were to do it, it's a fine thing to do. I don't believe we could do it until February. February would be the next time that the community is in session, unless you want to hold the meetings when the college is not in session. I presume when the college isn't in session, there's no classes. So I suppose we could hold it before Christmas. That's a possibility, or between Christmas and New Year's.
I just worry that students might be traveling and engaging in work programs.
It's the same question we had when we were dealing with meeting time for here. There's no perfect time for here, but you just have to make a decision. We could certainly do that. I don't want to push this back very far. I'm afraid if we push the thing back, the brochure creation until after we get the input from a February meeting. That probably makes it March. We would probably not have the interviews. Let's see, it's open for 2 months, so that means it would be open in April and May. We could set up the interviews for the finalists in June. When does the semester end?
The first week of June.
So we could have the town hall meetings for the candidates after the semester is over. I think that most faculty, I don't know, I could be wrong.
And then most faculty would be gone, so that concerns me. I've always been,
I agree.
I've been frustrated that we're as slow on, as much behind the curve as we already are.
And that's the problem.
That's my concern, is that candidates who are putting themselves, who are interested in these positions will have already selected a position, and our field will be much smaller and much narrower. It's just, it works to have an acting president and an interim president, but my primary goal would be to find a superintendent. We have a couple of comments and then we do need to take a break. And Lauren, I would then turn this back for you to take it back to the committee, hold a discussion with the committee, and we will respect your choice, because we have hired a consultant. And yes, sir.
Yeah, having participated in the selection process of superintendents, I think you have to take it. Have to be cautious about moving in a time process that allows for everybody in the community to participate. I think we should have meetings in Molina. I think we should have meetings in Seaside. I think we should have meetings in all those places to have all of those kinds of people participate. Somehow, sometimes, people who are used to just making decisions by small little groups, they tend to eliminate a lot of the larger community in the process. And so I would, when we selected our superintendent, we went to had meetings in Soledad, had meetings in King City, had meetings in Castroville, and we publicized those meetings. They were out in the newspaper so everybody could come.
At what phase? Are you talking about where you're developing criteria, or are you talking about the phase where you were actually evaluating or looking at candidates?
No, I'm not talking about looking at candidates. I'm talking about getting input from the community in terms of what it is that they would like to see in a superintendent. Just from the perspective of myself, I think it's important to have a superintendent that has a history and background of working with faculty, having good relationship with faculty. I think that's really important, that is open to student participation and community participation. I don't know who's in the committee, but I would assume there's probably not a blacks and a lot of Chicanos in the community. Might be a few.
Excuse me, Mr.
Can you let me finish? Can you let me finish?
I would like you to.
Okay, please let me finish. I think that it would be a good idea to get all kinds of people on a selection committee. Otherwise, the superintendent will look with whoever's selecting. Will look like with whoever is selecting those people. So I'm recommending that you go a little bit slower in terms of getting input from the community. There's always a lot of time to do that, and then find the right person. That's the really important thing, finding the right person that fits the college.
Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, I just want to, first I wanted to inquire about the number that was provided. You said 110 people provided, and that's 110 discrete people. You said 110 people attended. That's 110 discrete people?
110 unique, separate individuals.
Okay.
Not counting people who came twice. I think Larry came twice. Did you come twice? Not counting that.
A substantial number of people came twice, because the second meeting, one of the most frequent comments was, in the prior meeting, this was on the list, it should be on the list. I would also like to note, I mean, I wasn't able to attend the first meeting because I have a class from 9:30 to 10:45, and so at 10:45 I released my students. I got down here as quickly as I could, and the meeting was wrapping up. It didn't even last a full hour. And what that means is that any students who might have similarly been in a situation where they were getting out of a class at 10:45 and coming, right, didn't get the opportunity to. The second meeting also ended early, right? It didn't last the entire time, and in fact a substantial portion of that time was our consultant speaking. Finally, I would like to say that I think it's really pretty dispiriting to hear the board over and over and over again suggesting that the community is just not that interested in the college. I think that's what we heard about the meetings. That was the kind of primary message in the last board meeting. And right, again, that's the message here. I actually think that there are a lot of community members who are looking for MPC to serve them better. And if we continue to create closed loops where, right, the only people that we're creating conditions, that we're trying to facilitate input from are the people who are already here, then how are we going to do that outreach? And that's really what we're doing again and again in process after process, is creating a closed loop where the only people that you hear from regularly are the people, right, they come to board meetings, and the only people who can come to board meetings are the people who can block that on their schedule. And the only people who can come to the forums are the people who are available at 10 o'clock in the morning, which wouldn't even include every member of the board. So, you know, I think that if the board... 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, sorry, 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
Also, would not have facilitated it next every member of the board.
Excuse me, this isn't time for discussion.
You're right.
These times. Okay, would you finish, please?
Yeah.
When you're finished.
I think that at some point the board needs to make the decision to conduct a meeting at a time when members of the community can come, to invite members of the community, to tell them we want them here at MPC and we want to know what they want from us. And then maybe see if really the community is so disinterested, if students are so disinterested that they wouldn't come when classes aren't in session, if students or faculty are so disinterested that they wouldn't come, that staff are so disinterested that they wouldn't come in the evening. Because right now you're working on the basis of a hypothesis that nobody's paying that much attention, and I think that maybe people would if we invited them to.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Wendy Rudowski. I'm a resident of Molina and one of your MPUSD representatives. It's been 20 years since I was a student here at MPC, and I just want to, it's great to be back on campus, and welcome to our 2 new representatives on the board. Thank you for your service. On behalf of MPUSD, we are so grateful and excited about the partnerships that we have been able to establish with MPC through the dual enrollment programs and the pathways that we're putting in place for our students to move through MPUSD and continue their education with MPC. I think that the superintendent selection is a really big deal, and one of the most important responsibilities that I know that I feel like we have as trustees. And just as you are considering your process and your work, many of our students at MPUSD will be the ones coming into MPC in the coming years. So if there is an opportunity for some communication or meeting with those families that we have in our district, we would be happy to help facilitate that. I will also add, for one of the challenges that we really struggle with at MPUSD is how to really engage the community in ways that work for everyone, and it's a struggle, it's hard. But some of the things that we've found, in addition to meetings, which are great, but that a lot of people have a difficult time getting to, is surveys, just a quick monkey survey, where people can quickly fill it out and send it back to us. We've been able to collect a lot of really great input from community members that would never show up at a meeting. We've also tried to make it a point to start presenting regularly at all of our city council meetings. And so if you want to come and chat with our board, we'd be happy to put that on the schedule and agendize something so that we can have some discussion. But I really appreciate the amount of thought that you're putting into all of this and just everything that you've been able to do with us. And on a final, just closing note, I do also represent education on the AMP board. So I have contacted Christine Wing, who's the director. I know you didn't take formal board action, but we will have her follow up with some additional information if that is something that you'd like to pursue. Thank you again.
Thank you, and thank you very much for being here. All right.
Suzanne Ammons, admin assistant. We'll try to make this quick, of course. Welcome to the new trustees. I think this is very exciting. I can feel the energy in the room, right? I wanted to mention, Yuri Anderson, you made a good point, I think, at the meeting last Wednesday in asking about the composition makeup of our selection committee, and I think clarification was brought who those members were, and I thought there was satisfaction in the overall responses of the audience and anybody who was present. I thought that that was important. Another point, I regret to hear that it's being characterized that the general public or campus community or community in general being characterized as being disinterested. Perhaps there are points of interest that come to the board, new business items that are of more interest than other items, but I don't think there's a generalization that the campus, the board, believes that the community is disinterested. I wouldn't frame it that way, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Many of us who serve on the governing board are active in the community in many ways. Mr. Johnson walks the street of downtown Monterey on a daily basis.
Let's describe it a different way.
And engages the community as frequently as he can. And I too attend several large meetings in which I hold frequent discussions with people. And if they don't come to a meeting, that's simply because they trust me in the decisions and the choices I am making on their behalf. If they didn't, they'd be here. So I agree with Ms. Ammons, and I'm not going to get into a discussion anymore. We're going to take a 10-minute recess, and then we go into reports and presentations.
Natalia, Molina.
Posición también.
Oh, y la posición, estoy en la mesa ejecutiva de Monterey Peninsula Community College.
Perfecto. Natalia, ¿qué se siente ser la primera latina en esta mesa directiva?
Pues siento un gran orgullo, pero también como gran humildad, porque esto es un gran cargo. Es un gran cargo, es un gran servicio y más de todo es una gran responsabilidad. No solo estoy aquí representando pues la voz latina, ¿ok? Pero también estoy aquí para ayudar a los que son estudiantes nuevos y también tenemos estudiantes que son de la mayor edad y se tienen que respetar ambos a la misma vez. Es un negocio, entonces tenemos que ser bien como juiciosos en las decisiones que hacemos a través de la cuenta del colegio.
Perfecto. Natalia, ahora como latina, o sea, vengo de división, obvio, ¿qué pueden esperar los estudiantes latinos de tu trabajo? ¿Qué pueden esperar? ¿Cómo los vienes, me imagino, estás para representarlos, para apoyarlos? Pero ¿de qué manera, en qué pueden esperar ellos de ti?
Quiero que ellos, por favor, que se comunican conmigo. Tengo mi correo electrónico que va a ser molina@mpc.edu y quiero que se comunican conmigo. Los de primera generación me preocupan, los que son de DACA me preguntan. Todos me preocupan, eso es lo que quería decir, me preocupan y quiero que estén en comunicación conmigo porque se necesita oír la voz de ellos, entender sus desafíos para entonces lograr éxitos.
Perfecto. Ahora, hablando de DACA y de los latinos, ¿habrá algún tipo, no sé si existe en el colegio, pero en Hartnell hay algo como Mi Casa, ¿verdad? Algo donde ayudan a los de DACA y todo. ¿Habrá algo así? ¿Estarás buscando por una implementación, algún programa similar aquí en PC también?
De eso no sé mucho, pero de lo que sí sé es que van a tener una plaza para una persona que va a ser administradora o administrador de becas para estudiantes hispanos. Entonces en la administración ya se están enfocando de eso. De algo como Mi Casa, lo que están teniendo en Hartnell, no sé todavía, pero hay movimiento para apoyar más a los estudiantes latinos.
Entonces vas a trabajar mucho. ¿Cuál va a ser tu enfoque así, más bien como para ayudar a ellos, ellos que a lo mejor lo necesitan más? Porque ya sabes, muchos de ellos pueden venir de que los padres pues no son tradicionalmente de que van al colegio, sino que algunos no llegan ni a secundaria o prepa, ¿verdad? Para motivarlos y que se queden, que sigan estudiando, ¿qué puede hacer uno desde la mesa directiva?
Pues desde la mesa directiva se puede influir y también inspirar a través de los tipos de programas para apoyar a los estudiantes. Por ejemplo, uno de los desafíos bien fuertes de cualquier estudiante que sea de primera generación es adaptarse al inglés. Entonces, tener herramientas, grupos de apoyo que le puedan ayudar con el inglés. También ayudar con las finanzas. Yo me acuerdo que cuando yo apliqué para escuela, fue bien difícil llenar esa papelería. Ayuda con eso. Y también tener personas que le pueden apoyar con la cultura, porque es muy diferente estar, vos sabes, en una comunidad latina y entonces ir de eso a una escuela donde todo es influido por la cultura blanca. Y de eso tenemos que platicar, de eso tenemos que enfrentar. Y también una de las cosas por cual estoy yo bien entusiasmada es a ver si poquito a poco podemos implementar más estudios sobre la cultura latina, más estudios sobre la cultura afroamericana, más estudios sobre nuestras comunidades asiáticas. ¿Ves? Porque eso es parte de nuestro papel, es parte de nuestro desarrollo y influye el aprendizaje.
Perfecto. Ahora hablaste de tu papel. ¿Cuál es tu función como parte del comité? ¿Cuál va a ser tu función?
Ok, mi función, el papel de alguien quien sea en la mesa directiva es trabajar con el presidente para la política de la escuela. Eso es en su sencillez. Y además de eso, es oír a la voz de la comunidad, a ver qué es lo que ellos quieren, qué es lo que ellos necesitan para crear un colegio innovadora, prestigiosa, que puede lograr muchos éxitos.
Perfecto. Ahora, me imagino que estás aquí, es latina, estás para representar a los latinos. ¿Me podrías decir eso en cámara nomás para que ellos te escuchen? O sea, ¿qué mensaje tú le puedes decir a los estudiantes latinos?
Pues para los estudiantes latinos quiero que sigan en la lucha de educación. Yo sé que es difícil, pero que piden ayuda, siempre hagan preguntas para ver quién les puede ayudar y estos mensajes de mis padres que es la pura verdad. La educación es el puente de salirse uno de la pobreza. No importa si uno quiere ser alguien como carpintero o plomero, o si quiere hacer películas, trabajar para televisión, ser doctor, enfermera, la única forma en que uno va a salir de la pobreza es con una educación. Y vale la pena sacar ese asociado, sacar su bachillerato, maestría, se puede hacer. Aún desafíos se puede hacer.
Perfecto. ¿Algo más que quisieras añadir?
Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí hoy y muchísimas gracias a la comunidad por su apoyo. espero que se comuniquen conmigo y a ver cómo yo les puedo mejor servir.
Perfecto, muchísimas gracias. Entonces, estás aquí para representar a los latinos y a todos los estudiantes.
Sí, estoy aquí para representar los estudiantes latinos y toda la comunidad.
Perfecto, muchísimas gracias.
Okay.
Welcome back. And this is now time for a very interesting part of the meeting that I enjoy very much. And these are our reports or presentations from, and tell us what's happening on campus. And may we start with our acting president superintendent, Mr. Walker.
Sure. With the quick turnaround, I really didn't prepare a lot, realizing that we just met last month. But what I did want to do, just personally and on behalf of the faculty, staff, administration, welcome our new trustees to the MPC family and community. You've shown already an engagement that I think is important to this institution, and we look forward to working with you on the opportunities and challenges that this college faces. We're trying to move in a direction to meet the needs of our students, and I think we invite all members of the campus community and our new board members to work with us to achieve that common goal of student success. So with that being said, again, because of last month, the short term, I don't have a lot, but to thank you for your service to our community, both the current board members and the members who have been here in the past. We look forward to working with you to achieve our common goal of student success.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. MPC Foundation, Ms. Michael.
Yes, I would also like to welcome the new trustees to the board, and now that the board meetings will start at 4 o'clock, I will no longer be running from Rotary, which is what happened today. I'm currently the president of my Rotary clubs, hence I get here about 2 o'clock, so I'll be here at the beginning from now on. Other than that, you have my written report in your packets. I don't have anything to add. I'm excited to say that the funds we received in November 2018 was $1.16 million. It was a great month for the foundation. Thank you, and I'll entertain any questions if you have them.
Any questions for Ms. Michael? Thank you, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the Early Childhood Education Center outdoor project?
Oh, yes. That is a project that we're hoping to be going out to bid with in early 2019. Been working with Mr. Martin on that. But the outdoor classroom is intended to re-landscape some of the playground area. Currently, there's a very playground type structure in the Childhood Development Center, and the idea behind an outdoor classroom is it's more natural, more landscape based, so that the children there interact more with nature, and they're going to be able to teach science and connect students. Currently, as everybody's aware, young people are spending a lot of time looking at screens and not necessarily digging in the dirt. And it turns out that those concrete playgrounds and the structures that are made out of plastic and wood don't really help students, young people, connect with nature. So that is the idea behind that project, that it would provide a more natural landscape. We had the consultant come that trademarks outdoor classroom projects, and he did an analysis of the area and thought that Monterey Peninsula College's Child Development Center could be a model for Northern California, just the landscape that we have and the topography and the climate in this area. So he did a fantastic report and said this could be a really great opportunity, and then once it's built, the staff at the Childhood Development Center would be able to teach other preschool teachers regionally and throughout the state in outdoor classroom education methods, so that we hope will generate additional revenue for the ECE program. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, no, just I would like to add, though, it's exciting when we look at the number of families here that are living in apartments, and this just gives this whole new way to get kids outside that they may not even be doing that at home.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we do hear that from the teachers there, that some of the kids that go there, it's the only time that they get to play outside is when they're at school. So, yeah.
So does the Giannini Foundation still have money, or is it not?
They do still have money. They're one of the primary donors to the project.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, next report is Academic Senate, and Dr. Craig told me that she needed to get to class, so she wasn't able to stay for her report. MPCEA.
Good afternoon. I don't really have a report. So. I just wanted to come and see the new trustees and welcome you to MPC. And I am very happy to represent about 120, 130 classified employees. We're the guys who carry the bags around here. But we do vote. So.
Give them an idea of the breadth of scope that the CSEA.
Well, CSEA is, we represent the K through 12 and junior colleges in California, and we do have about 230,000 members. So, but we're rather small here, but we're hardworking, and we're happy to be here, and we're happy to have you here. So, thank you very much.
Can we possibly tell our new trustees?
Oh, yes.
Please.
There is no class without classes tonight.
Thank you, and thank you for your report.
Oh, that's a good one.
MPCTA, Lauren? Oh, Alan, thank you. Dr. Haffa.
So I don't have a prepared statement because I didn't know I was going to do this. Lauren had to go. But I just wanted to first of all express my gratification for the board for approving the contract. I think that was at your last meeting.
Yes.
And like all contracts, it wasn't everything we wanted, it probably wasn't everything you wanted, and that's how negotiations work. And hopefully, as we begin the next round of negotiations, we can sort of find that middle ground a little bit faster, so it doesn't take us 5 years next time. But I also just wanted to say that, when we met with your team the last time, the energy in the room was very different. And the energy in the room matters. And I hope that as you establish your negotiating team, I'm not sure if you've already done that or if you'll do that in January, but it really does matter, and it was really positive at our last meeting. And so it's something that I've also had to learn in my other role with the city, that sometimes we haven't always had the right people in the room and we had to make some changes, and I just wanted to convey that to the interim president and to the board. It does make a difference. The last comment has to do with, we, NPCTA, we represent both full-time faculty and part-time faculty, and that's why it was particularly important for us that we really prioritize our part-time faculty in our negotiations, because in general, throughout the state, throughout the country, part-time faculty, as you know, are not paid very well. And that's true here as well. And so getting a 4% raise for them was helpful, but it is something I urge the board and the college to keep an eye on that. And for the new board members, to kind of give you some context, and there's a salary range depending on how many years you work here, but for a typical 3-credit class, a part-time employee faculty might make about $3,000 for that. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. So they can't teach more than, is it 10 or 9 credits? So typically that's going to be 3 of those courses would be a typical load. You're looking at $9,000 a semester. If they teach the maximum and they teach all year, again, a typical faculty member is making about $27,000. Now, if they got a full-time job and they're just doing this as a bonus at night, it's something they enjoy doing, it's not so critical. But for people, many of them, who this is their job and they have to cobble together many of these jobs, it's really difficult. You consider that they all have master's degrees, many of them PhDs, many of them with debt. So anyway, we will be preparing our sunset proposal for the January board meeting, and we do look forward to beginning negotiations again. We do sincerely thank you for approving the contract.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Dr. Haffa. Any other
Well, I would like to give a very brief report. Juliana was not able to be here today due to her final schedule. We did host Winterfest. I don't know if anyone was able to make it into the Student Center on, I believe it was the 5th. But we had a cookie decorating session with all of the kids from the Education Center, and it went really, really well. We had a student council member dress up as Santa, I dressed up as an elf, and we had all the kids come up and meet Santa and me, and got to tell us one of their wishes for Christmas. So it was just an honor to be a part of that. I think that it was such a wonderful event, and I hope that we can continue to do more things for the children that are on our campus as well. And I thought it was a really good display for our school of our inclusive support of all of our members, even our smallest ones here. And I also wanted to present a Christmas card for all, or a holiday card I should say, for all of the board members.
Oh, thank you, Louise. You're so thoughtful. We're delighted. Thank you.
I'm sorry I don't have one for everyone. That was all I was given, but.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays to all of you.
Your family.
Yeah, thank you. These are actually from the ASMPC.
Oh,
if you open it, you'll see. But we, as a member of ASMPC, we want to thank you for your continued support of all of the things that we try to do to add some specialness, add something extra for our students. And we want to thank you again for all of your support.
Oh, that's terrific. Mr. Walker, I want you to see that. That's very nice. Very nice. Okay. Academic affairs. Is there no report today? Okay, that's fine. And student services report?
Yeah, we, because of the
You're
short
take
term,
off one hat and put on another?
Yes, we're going to defer the report till for the next board meeting.
All right, very fine. Administrative services.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
How is our money?
The Administrative Services Report has been submitted with the board packet. It stands as written, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Martin? Okay. It's always good when we have a chance to attend the legislative conference and the training conference in Sacramento at the end of January. We get a good dose of budget information. As part of that. Moving right along, governing board comments. Okay, this is the time where those of us who attended the conference in Palm Springs last month wanted to share a little bit with you about what we heard. Lauren's laughing.
I'm laughing because, of course, it's on my own computer. Sorry.
All right. And do you want to ad lib?
Boy, let's see. Well, I was going to give you a rundown of the various sessions that I attended, it's embarrassing. Right now, the one session I'm thinking of is there was a session about what to do with in the wonderful eventuality that we had in the excess money that it was one-time only money. I went to a session that talked about putting it into some sort of a trust which would be earmarked for increases in STIRS and PERS, which is a pretty smart idea because those things are coming and we know they're coming and it's going to be an expensive proposition for us as well as every other district in the system, including K-12. That'll be a difficult nut to crack. And no matter how much we put into the system or put into a trust fund, it would not be enough to cover it. It would just be enough to defray a little bit of it. We did hear from San Bernardino College District, which used to have a television station that was on a really nice channel, and they sold the channel to somebody else and pocketed about $100 million.
Whoa.
They then spent $25 million on another channel, so they're still in today's day and age when everybody's on cable, it doesn't matter what your channel number is, but somebody's willing to pay a whole lot of money for that channel, and they put $75 million into this kind of an account. And that's still not enough to completely cover the stirs and cruise costs. So it's a huge amount of money. They're bigger than we are, but not that much bigger. So that's I had so many more things to say.
All right, well, we can
We'll do
continue
it next
this.
time. Yeah, I'll do it next time.
We can continue this next month.
Yeah.
And at least you did, you were very actively involved in each of the sessions. Would you have a few comments that you'd like to make?
Yes, I did attend a lot of really wonderful sessions, some regarding legislation, which helped expand my knowledge that I can bring back to the rest of the students. I also attended some sessions about reaching the students who are underrepresented. And I did, there's so much information I could share with you, but I did receive a lot of training on my end that I can bring back to ASMPC and share that with the rest of the student advocates that serve the school here. And I also attended, I think most of us attended the session about preparing to hire a new CEO, which was obviously very pertinent for our current situation. And I just wanted to mention that I did take vigorous notes at each of these sessions. I'm actually working on a little report, maybe to hand out all to you, the things that I learned. But the thing that I really took from it was the community opinion, and the community input was one of the defining factors of the session. Finding the right person is so important, and I would just like to mention that there were 10 qualities of a CEO that helped ensure exceptional levels of student success. 1 was committed to student access and success. 2, takes strategic risk. 3, builds strong teams. And there's obviously more information, I'm just paraphrasing. 4, establishes urgency for improvement. Plans lasting internal change. Results-oriented. Communicates successfully. Financial and operational ability. Entrepreneurial fundraising. Develops effective internal partnerships. So I just wanted to share that all with you. If anyone would like any more information, I have it.
And that's
That was
called the
to-
Aspen toolbox.
Yeah.
That comes from the Aspen conference. And when I went through those things, I felt actually quite good because the previous times we had done the town hall meetings that we just heard about in this meeting, we pretty much presaged all that stuff. We were actually quite good on that. We came up with those ourselves. I'm not sure that we'll come up with them ourselves this time, but probably we'll be coming up with some subset of them relevant particularly relevant to our community.
I can't praise enough going to these conferences, mostly because sometimes we end up in workshops that we're really not interested in. And that's a great thing, because you learn things that you probably wouldn't have learned because it wasn't one of the ones that really attracted you. I don't know if that makes sense, but and that's part of the excellence in trusteeship, because it forces you sometimes to go to some you might not have wanted to. So it'll be fun when you all go and we explore those. One that I did want to go to and I was fascinated with was student housing at community colleges. And I think, we live in an area that actually there is an opportunity, or hopefully an opportunity, because of Fort Ord and CSUMB, and who knows, at one time, maybe even Hartnell being able to do that and looking at an area. But our students aren't those community college students that I remember from junior college days, where you lived at home and you went on to community college. And housing is so difficult here. And if there was an area, and by the way, the schools that are doing this have actually been very positive and have not seen it turn into Animal House by any means. No, and I think that is a legitimate fear when you're looking at it. I know, Yuri, sometimes I don't express myself exactly. But anyway, it was fascinating, both from those colleges that were trying it and were doing it, and those that were scared of it. And the dialogue was great, and that's one of the best things about going. The other one that I was particularly interested in was schools that were telling us that they're bringing in $100,000, close to $300,000 on foreign students coming, international students coming. And of course, we live in an area where that should be a no-brainer for us. That, and perhaps working with CSUMB, certainly the Institute of International Studies, where they're attracting students that are that need help with English as a second language before they actually start their classes. And so I think somewhere that it would be really nice if we could actually do some kind of an ad hoc committee and with faculty members, perhaps with a trustee, and really seriously look at what can be done in that area. So and of course the CEO one was great when we found out that I believe the average time that a CEO now spends in a college is 5 years. 4 years. So often we think that the problems we're having are really unique to us. And the reality is community colleges throughout California face many of the same problems and sometimes feel very alone. And we go to these conferences. And sometimes we find out that we're ahead of the game too, and that's positive. Turn it over.
And I was just going to share with you, this is a CEO tenure and retention study that was done by the Community College League of California, and if you want to just browse through that, it's available to you. You're welcome to take it. They also spoke very highly of legislative advocacy, and so we look forward to some of your expertise and your involvement and your connections, because it is important that we communicate. And Charlie Brown was always very good at attending the Seaside City Council meetings and keeping the Seaside community updated on what was happening. So this is the program that we had, so you're welcome to just look through it and see the diversity of things, programs that they had. I felt that particularly the breakout sessions this time were very interesting. They were more specific than they had been in the past. It wasn't just general. And there was just a lot of good information. So as well as having this brochure that gives you just the highlights of what there were, you can always go online and download the PowerPoints that they use for the presentations, and so that's always available afterwards. So that's just a quick little summary. Any other board comments that you want to make? How are we doing? Okay.
I'm going to just do one real quick,
okay,
which is that I took the board training yesterday for the foundation. Becky, you're amazing. And you actually kept my interest for 4 hours. It was awesome. But I would invite people, when they have the opportunity, to come to a board meeting of the foundation. It's people from the community who are truly dedicated to this school, and it's not just about getting money. It really is a holistic approach to the school, and it's wonderful. So thank you for the opportunity very much.
And I just had, Rick had said something at the end of your previous thing about things that are impacting all the districts. And one of the things that impacts all of the districts is the new funding formula. Our new trustees probably don't know too much about it yet, but they will be learning heavily about it. I had a question for David, and I think he and I have talked before, but can you give us just a heads up on what we're facing in 2 years with the fiscal cliff?
Sure.
Can you do that? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I'm in trouble. So this recent legislation enacted what is deemed the Student Center funding formula, and that took effect as of July 1st, 2018. And that's changing the way community colleges have been historically funded. For the last, I believe, 12 years, we've been funded based on the Prop 98, Senate Bill 361 language, which is an FTES base, so full-time equivalent students. So districts would receive a flat dollar amount for every 15 units of instruction. That was what was termed a full-time equivalent student. So that could be one student taking 15 units, or it could be 5 students taking 3 units each. Any combination of 15 units would generate all 72 districts a flat dollar amount. As of July 1st, the Student Center funding formula has transitioned to a performance-based funding, which takes into account various metrics. Some of the metrics include the low-income population, which is our Pell students, and our Board of Governors, our Promise students, and also the performance-based funding of completions. A couple of those off the top of my head are a associate's degree for transfer, a regular transfer to accredited institution, and a regular associate's degree, a CTE completion of 9 units, and there's also earning a living wage right out of community college. So now districts are being funded on 60% FTES, and the additional is a combination of both the low-income portion as well as the completion portion. The Department of Finance has run a variety of simulations and scenarios which calculated all 72 districts what their funding would look like if their funding was impacted today by the student-centered funding formula. Currently, out of the 72 districts, approximately 9 districts would receive a lower revenue amount based on this new funding formula. Of those 9 districts, approximately 4 are basic aid districts, which means that they don't rely on the state for funding. They generate enough local property taxes to fund themselves. So there's about 5 districts which will have a decline in revenue in 3 years once the hold harmless provision expires. MPC currently is one of those 5 districts. Based on the information the Department of Finance used from the 2016-17 year, we're looking at a decrease in revenue of approximately $2.6 million. In 3 years, when the funding formula goes live for all 72 districts as it's written today, we do have to take into account any inflation or any increases in PERS and STIRS. Basic projections are looking at a deficit of approximately $4 million based on the information we have today. So does that answer your question, Trustee Steck?
That's what keeps Lauren awake at nights.
That's correct. So $4 million in our budget, our unrestricted general fund is approximately $40 million. So we're looking at 10% hit.
So we will look forward to many more budget opportunities, budget discussion opportunities with you, Mr. Martin. It's complicated, and so we will spend time in depth going into all of that. So that's part of one of the things that I would like us to talk about when we have a board retreat is setting up a special meeting schedule or a discussion study session schedule so that we can make sure that we address those areas that take a little more time. So, did you have any more comments? All right. Natalia, do you have some comments that you would like to make of a general nature? This is our opportunity to talk to each other. Under terms of the Brown Act, we are not allowed to discuss school business in larger than groups of 2. So, and we can't go from one to the other to the other. So this is where we talk to each other about, this is where we do our business, is right here at our public meetings. So this is, if there's anything. Right. That's why we don't send out group emails.
Right.
What are you doing today?
At this time, with respect to the issues that we've already discussed or that, I'm just getting acquainted with. I don't have any questions per se, but I do want to celebrate and say how happy I am with all of the courageous conversation we've been having. I really feel that we're fulfilling that page 22 of that binder you gave me where it says courageous conversation. So that's all I really have to say.
Terrific.
Except none of us would have known it was page 22.
Yuri?
Because you haven't heard my voice enough today. But I just want to thank everybody for the really warm welcome. I'm excited to be here. You've seen me lurking in the back of the audience for the last half of the year or so. So prepared to be sitting up here and excited to represent the residents of District 2. Really glad to have Lauren ask the question about the student success funding formula and potential impacts to MPC. That is an issue that I brought up time and time again during the election with the residents in Molina, and a message that said Molina has an opportunity to help MPC. So let's talk about how MPC can help Molina. So what you'll learn about me is I am a calculated risk taker. And I think that having had this projection of a $2.7 million deficit and MPC put on this list of 1 of 5, that I'd love to see the board set some goals that in 3 years that doesn't happen to us. And let's make a plan to combat that and to be really working diligently over the next 2 years to not let our college be impacted. And how are we inviting diverse low-income students into our college and helping them be successful. And so that is a body of work that I'm really excited to be supportive of and to do whatever I can to make sure that the constituents that I represent are at the table and helping to figure out the problem. And to that point, I just want to appreciate the board for tabling the board goals at the last meeting. I'm hoping that we'll be discussing those maybe at our retreat and see some opportunity to, look at student success funding formula as potential goal there. And then just, I'm really happy to be here. I don't have the deep history with MPC that so many people who come up and talk here do, but as you heard, I have a 60-year roots in this community, and I intend for those 2 little kids that you saw sitting in the audience here today to be able to say to them with 100% confidence, start at MPC. And so that's the message that I'm taking to the residents in Marina and the families that I represent who really are going to be looking to this college to support their kids. So I apologize in advance for how much I'm going to talk, but I have questions and I'm willing to offer ideas and want to work together to do that.
Oh, Yuri, don't ever apologize for it, because I don't.
It's a half-hearted apology. It's more of a warning.
Okay.
We're delighted to welcome our new trustees. We appreciate your energy and enthusiasm and interest. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I sit on the World Affairs Council board and on behalf of MPC, and so this is the November-December newsletter that I will pass along to you, and the luncheon meetings are always very interesting. They are held whenever a speaker is available. There are discussion groups once a month held on the MPC campus. And so you might like to participate or interact in that at some time. Very interesting group. All right, Mr. Walker, anything else? Advanced planning. We have a date, a tentative date or a date scheduled for a board retreat. And so you'll be getting a note from Mr. Walker at some point in time, inviting you to comment on different things that you would like to see as part of that. I would send it out, but I can't as part of the Brown Act. So if it comes from the president, you can receive your input and then we can come together on recommendations on what you would like from there. So Anything else that I'm forgetting? That's advanced planning. All right, so, January 25 to 27 is the effective trustee workshop, and Jolene has, I think, been in touch with each of us with regard to that.
And I do have your travel forms that I need you to sign.
Okay. And we're looking at February 2 for the board retreat. Flex days are January 23 and 24. That's teacher in service. And so the faculty are back before the students, and it's always a good time to get an update on what's happening campus-wide within the departments and such. So stay tuned for those announcements as when they're coming and what time those are. And again, they will be announced through the president's office. Okay, anything else, Mr. Walker? I think that's it. All right. This very first meeting of yours is adjourned.